Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're from, good whatever. This is another edition of Pink Sock Podcast, and today we are ranking all 19 of Black Sabbath's albums. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
19 fucking albums. 50 years of a career, but there was a very long period where Black Sabbath wasn't releasing anything.
I would have done like the top Aussie Black Sabbath albums because then that
I
would have
was
been a lot easy.
I was going to, and you told me no, let's do all of them.
Yeah. See what I've done there?
But should we jump into the rankings, or should we give a little bit of the lineup changes throughout the years and then rank?
We do the rankings last. We do like a little bit of the scene.
I'm not going to go through all of the lineup changes because there was some that just isn't notable. There's one that I am going to cover because it's a fun fact, but other than album lineups, I'm not going to cover a whole lot.
Yeah.
Black Sabbath was actually formed from the byproduct of the Polka Tulk Blues Band and the band Earth, both of which consisted of Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward. They had two other members when they were those two groups, but they kind of the Polka Tulk Blues Band had 6 members, I do believe, and they were a different style. They got rid of the 2 members, but instead of firing them, they just renamed the band and became a
That's
whole new.
pretty smart. Like, could you imagine like 40 years now or 50 years now, whatever it is, they still tour as the band Earth?
Right? Oh, welcome, Renee. And no, they changed their name from Polka Tulk to Earth. They actually changed their name from Earth to Black Sabbath because they were getting a huge attendance because they're getting mistaken for another local band by the name of Earth that was more popular.
But then should be, but then like they should take the other Earth band to court.
Yeah,
Say
because
we're
Black
the-
Sabbath's more popular now.
Yeah, like still Earth is still pretty much. Is my microphone working?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly fine. Is there any echo? Thank you, Mama. The
Oh,
mama
okay,
brewed me
cool.
coffee.
Hi, Mama.
She says hi.
Hey!
They can't see you, but they heard you.
Oh, they can't see me. That's good.
Oh,
But-
Nobody wants to
she's a
listen.
ghost.
Yeah, she's just a ghost at this point.
She's just the spirit that lives on in the podcast.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, by the way, and hit that like, subscribe, and share button if you haven't already. But yeah, Black Sabbath changed their name from Earth to Black Sabbath due to that issue. But before they changed their name to Black Sabbath, they were writing a song called Black Sabbath, which was a completely different.
Under Earth, yeah.
I do believe they were working on a band name change, and they weren't sure what to change it to. But they were working on a song called Black Sabbath, which was a completely different sound than what they originally were. It was more of a really dark sound.
Because I would probably believe that the band Earth would have been a lot more jazz rock than back then before they went to the metal sound.
You can actually listen to some of the Earth tunes online. You can find them. They've been released since.
They need to do an Earth reunion.
Black Sabbath is done. Let's do an Earth farewell tour after not being that band for 50 years.
No, like get the band back together and call it Earth.
Bro.
50-year reunion of the band Earth.
But nobody will
Back
know any
together
other
for the
music.
first time doing Black Sabbath songs.
Oh, they'll be doing Black Sabbath songs, but under Earth.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for more of a Black Sabbath history, kind of, in 1968, before they even had an album, Tony Iommi left Black Sabbath.
Joined Jethro Tull
Yes, for a couple shows.
for a album, I think.
No, he was not on an album. He actually,
Well, I think he was in there for like a hot second.
yeah, he was. He did a handful of shows, and then he did a TV live broadcast show with them, and then he left because Jethro Tull was working on a genre shift, and he did not agree with what they were doing in the band. He was not in the band that long, so he just kind of left and did his own thing, Sabbath.
So that was similar to like what happened with Kerry King of Megadeth.
Yes, very similar.
Ha! That's funny.
Now, an interesting side note, when they changed their name to Black Sabbath, it was an Ozzy Osbourne and Geezer Butler song they were working on. It's actually named after the 1963 horror film starring Boris Karloff. And actually, they wanted to become a horror-themed rock band, which was not popular around that time. I believe they might have been the first. There was shock rock type bands around that time, like Screamin' Jay Hawkins was one. He would come out like, "I'm as bad as you," and would like be singing, but he didn't sing about horror music. His music wasn't scary. Now we have Black Sabbath as a band, but their original sound of Black Sabbath when they were Earth was like flower power folk music. It was kind of like typical hippie music. They became a blues rock band, which was crazy for that time period because that was peace, love, and all that stuff, that kind of movement. And now they were like an evil rock band. And then in 1969, Black Sabbath played their first ever show on August 30th, 1968. Their first single actually was not Black Sabbath. Do you want to guess what their first single ever was, Grant?
Black Sabbath. Let me have a look at this.
Their first single that they ever released in 1969.
Give me a second. I'm going to Google this.
You're Googling it. You're cheating. Can you guess?
Would it be off the debut album?
It'd be before their debut album, 1969. It was, I believe, November 1969.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Evil Woman, which was a cover of a song by the band.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That was a good song, that.
It's actually a cover.
Yeah.
And then later on, Black Sabbath played on John Peel's Top Gear radio show in 1969, performing Black Sabbath NIB, Behind the Wall of Sleep, and Sleeping Village. That was their first commercial success. Now, Black Sabbath released their debut album on Friday the 13th in February of 1970. I love that's smart. Now, this lineup of Black Sabbath, which was Ozzy Osbourne, Geezer Butler, Tony Iommi, and Bill Ward, is considered the classic lineup.
Yeah.
They went on to release Paranoid, which was released the same year, but at the end of the year. Then they released, I'm just going to rush through the other albums. They released Master of Reality, Volume 4, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage. Then they released Technical Ecstasy, which was the album of when the band was starting to
crumble. Yeah.
With Ozzy Osbourne anyway.
That was kind of like the least favorite album, though.
Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die are the two Death of Black Sabbath albums when it comes to the Ozzy era.
Well, Never Say Die was decent, though.
There's a reason why, though. Technical Ecstasy was the last album that Ozzy really had any say in, from my understanding.
Fun fact about Technical Ecstasy. The album cover apparently is supposed to be two robots having sex.
Interesting.
I'm not joking.
You want to know another fact about Technical Ecstasy?
What's that?
Technical Ecstasy was the last tour Ozzy did before Never Say Die album because he quit Black Sabbath after Technical Ecstasy tour. He wanted to pursue a solo career. Thank you, Belen and Renee. You guys have a lovely day. I'm sorry I'm not paying attention to the chat. I'm kind of really getting into the Black Sabbath stuff. Technical Ecstasy, Ozzy left during that tour. And actually, before Technical Ecstasy, they added a keyboard player, Gerald Woodruff. But anyway, he was also on Sabotage, but that's neither here nor there. Technical Ecstasy, Ozzy left during the tour. He was replaced by Dave Walker. He was the vocalist of Fleetwood Mac and Savoy Brown.
Yeah.
He actually helped write music for what the album later on became Technical Ecstasy. Well, Never Say Die, sorry. He wrote music for what became Never Say Die, but Ozzy refused to sing any of it. So they had to rewrite everything. And one of the songs that was a Dave Walker song, well, two of them, one of them Bill Ward sung on, and the other one was an instrumental. because Ozzy refused to sing anything that wasn't written for him or that he didn't help write. And that might explain why he does not perform anything but Ozzy era Black Sabbath tunes when he performs with Black Sabbath. However, you can find one song from the Never Say Die era sung by Dave Walker. I believe it's called, well, I'm trying to remember the name of the song. I think it's, I forget what song it was. I'm not going to fucking sit here and act like I know every little thing.
It's a great album now. I remember when I last saw Iron Maiden,
Mhm.
and then when Iron Maiden was about to come on, Never Say Die was playing, and people were jamming along to it.
Never Say Die is a great album, and you're going to really hate my ranking, but when it comes to Ozzy Osbourne era Black Sabbath, I felt Never Say Die and Technical Ecstasy both was very lacking in comparison to the other albums they released with Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And when
I
compared
found that the songwriting on both of them were lacking.
not the songwriting in my thought, like some of the songwriting a little bit, but the thing is they didn't sound like Ozzy era Black Sabbath. They didn't sound like any era Black Sabbath. And it was weird because Ozzy was singing, but it didn't sound like any Black Sabbath.
Yeah. It was a different style.
Very different. They went from being very dark, and their lyrics were very dark themed, to more of a, I don't even know how to describe it, like a hard rock band.
Well, first of all, they started off dark and jazzy.
Yeah. They were dark.
Because if you listen to Wicked World, that's such a jazzy song.
Yeah, they were jazz, blues, very evil and dark, and then they became kind of a hard rock band during Technical Ecstasy. And
They got forced to get commercialized.
Yeah, they didn't seem like the same charm of Black Sabbath that we experienced in the early days. They weren't more, nothing against the albums, but they kind of became commercialized, like you said, and they became more like other bands.
Yeah. Well, I guess the record label pushed them to go there, you know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But
That always does happen.
Believe it or not, Black Sabbath and Paranoid, those two albums got really bad reviews. And
Yeah,
Black Sabbath, from my understanding from books I've read, Black Sabbath would not, they thought an album did bad if it got good reviews. Now, after Never Say Die, Ozzy left Black Sabbath for what would have been for a while the last time. They would do random one-off reunions with Ozzy, but they wouldn't do albums for the longest time. So that would be the last Ozzy album with Black Sabbath until 13. Which is
another great album.
Which is another great album. And that actually is the return to the original Black Sabbath sound, in my opinion. Now, history was made in 1979 when Sharon Osbourne suggested Rainbow vocalist Ronnie James Dio, yes, later on became Ozzy's wife, is the one that suggested Dio to sing for Black Sabbath.
Isn't that weird?
That is very weird because her father was fighting with her to get Ozzy back in the band, and Sharon said he's too into drugs. And behind the scenes, Ozzy was forming a side band anyway since Technical Ecstasy. There actually was 2 or 3 different versions of Blizzard of Oz, which was a separate band from Black Sabbath. And when Ozzy left Black Sabbath, he was forming Blizzard of Oz. And it was actually supposedly noted that the on the Blizzard of Oz album thought it was going to be a band project and found out when the album was released that it was actually an Ozzy Osbourne solo record.
So, I'm guessing that Ozzy Osbourne's band would have been called Blizzard of Oz.
That's what the band was going to be called. It wasn't supposed to be a solo project, from my understanding.
They fucked up that big time.
It was supposed to be a actual band, and they changed it to an Ozzy solo project, and the band. So that was fun.
Yeah.
But Dio is now in Sabbath. Ozzy's doing his solo thing. Dio released 2 albums, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, which, if I'm not mistaken, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules both have a different drummer.
Yeah, Bill Ward was in Heaven and Hell, and Vinny Appice was in the Mob Rules.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think 20 years from after that, 20, 30 years, they formed Heaven and Hell, which that was a great band.
It was, and I actually, due to that band forming, I do consider all of Dio's stuff Heaven and Hell, even though it wasn't under that name.
I liked before we move on, I actually liked that that they went to change. They did the Ronnie James reunion, Mob Rules reunion, and not call it Black Sabbath, just call it Heaven and Hell. I think that's pretty smart.
Now, the sad part is eras come to an end in 1982. The only original members of Black Sabbath around that time, Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi, decided to continue on after Dio had left. And they ended up, originally, they wanted to have Deep Purple and Whitesnake vocalist David Coverdale, Samson's Nick Moore, or Lone Star's John Sloman to sing for them. And
I reckon David Coverdale would have done a really great job if he did Born Again.
Yeah, those were the singers that were supposedly contemplated for Born Again, along with Michael Bolton, supposedly auditioned according to Tony Iommi's biography. But
apparently Michael Bolton, that was true, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, Michael Bolton said in an interview that never happened, but Tony Iommi claims that he applied to audition, but it never accumulated. So I don't know which side of the story to believe.
But then if you listen to Michael Bolton's earlier stuff, Blackjack,
yeah,
which is Michael Bolton and Bruce Kulick's first band together, I believe, that was really good hard rock shit, dude, if you listen to it.
Yeah, it's great music.
It is. But then he went from hard rock to soul and soft, which is still fine.
You know what else?
It's still good.
You know what else is weird though about that era?
What's that?
They considered David Coverdale, but instead they ended up with another former Deep Purple vocalist, Ian Gillan, who actually by accident. They were all drinking together, and he suggested it.
Have you seen footage of Ian Gillan live doing Black Sabbath songs?
Yes, I thought he was good.
I thought he did a really good cover of Supernaut.
Yeah, he did. He was a great vocalist. Sadly, he was only on one album.
Yeah, that was the most underrated but hated album.
Yep, came out in 1983. It was panned by critics. It had complete negative reaction, which is typical for a Black Sabbath album.
But the album cover looked good, though.
Now,
the album cover looked better than the songs.
Now, Ward was on Born Again, if I'm not mistaken, but he didn't tour the album because he didn't like the pressures of the road. So he wasn't, I don't know if he was on the album or not, but he was replaced by Electric Light Orchestra drummer Bev Bevan for the Born Again World Tour. And then they were touring with Diamond Head. They toured with Quiet Riot and Night Ranger. It was a great tour. Now, after Born Again was released, they ended up firing Gillan, or Gillan left, and they were going to release a Tony Iommi new project. But due to pressures of the record label, it ended up being a Black Sabbath album, Seventh Star. Fun note, though, Born Again was originally going to be a new project with Iommi and Butler, but the same thing, pressures from the fucking studio. But the negative is about Seventh Star is there's only Tony Iommi on it from Black Sabbath. There's no Geezer Butler. That was the introduction of Black Sabbath as just Tony Iommi. Basically what Boston does with their guitarist.
But isn't it weird with Seventh Star? There was probably like maybe 2 songs that I liked in that app. So I remember doing these things for the Sabbath Sunday podcast every week. And we had to listen to them and shit. But it's kind of weird that it's got Tony Iommi in the front cover, but it's under Black Sabbath.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like a Tony Iommi solo album with Black Sabbath's name splashed on it.
It would have been better if it was just a solo album.
It would have been, and I honestly think every album after this one other than the Ozzy reunion. I think they should have changed the band name.
Yeah.
Because they had the same lyrical content, don't get me wrong, but once like you lose all of your band or more than half, it's not that band anymore.
I don't think Tony Iommi wanted to carry on as Black Sabbath.
He didn't. The studio basically had him signed to a record deal where he had to release albums, so he just went ahead and did it.
So pretty much like he's like the sole survivor of the band.
Yeah, the only continuous member. And what is really interesting note though, Seventh Star was the first and only album to feature ex-Deep Purple singer Glenn Hughes, who left Deep Purple, and Ian Gillan went back to Deep Purple.
It's fucking weird, man. Like the whole history of Black Sabbath with everything is just beyond fucking weird.
Bill Ward caused a little bit of controversy when this album was coming out because he quit Black Sabbath before Seven Star came out because this isn't fucking Black Sabbath, he said.
Yeah, good on him. But even his solo stuff, Bill Ward's solo stuff is fucking weird, man.
Here is a really weird thing. Before Glenn Hughes joined that lineup, it was disputed. They don't know how true this rumor is, but it was rumored that the frontman was going to be Jeff Fenholt, who is a Christian evangelist.
This is the era when Black Sabbath decided to become like a bit of a joke band now.
Fenholt is the one that claims this. He claims that he was in the band from January to May 1985. Noami hasn't confirmed or denied this. Now, since we only have Noami left, Seventh Star, the fucking tour didn't even have Glenn Hughes singing. Did you know that? Glenn Hughes was not the singer of this tour.
No, but I think Eric Singer was on drums on that album.
Eric Singer was on drums and touring it, but Glenn Hughes was only in the band for the album. He didn't sing on the tour. In Born Again, half of that tour wasn't even Ian Gillan. Ray Gillan was the singer on Seven Stars tour and half of the fucking tour for Born Again, which
That's
Ray
funny.
Gillan is the most underrated Black Sabbath singer ever and was not on an album. He was on the Seventh Star re-release for live portion of the album.
The next Black Sabbath album, after Seven Star, is very hard to get.
The Eternal Idol. This was around the time when
Eternal Idol and the one then the one next to that,
Headless Cross.
Headless Cross. That's a great album too, but those albums are so hard to get because Spotify didn't have them.
You have to buy them online or listen to them on YouTube because
So I think it was Seven Star. No, the one. What's the one with Iommi in the front cover?
That's Seventh Star. That is on Spotify.
Spotify. So I think it's Eternal Idol and the next one, Headless Cross or whatever it is.
The ones
After
that
Dehumanizer was like the ones you can't get on Spotify.
No, you can get Dehumanizer on Spotify. The ones that you can't get on Spotify are literally, and I am mad about this, it's the albums with Tony Martin singing. That's literally the only ones that you cannot get on Spotify.
These actually, Tony Martin kind of sounded like a little bit like Dio, a little bit, like his vocal range.
He didn't get enough credit. He was in Black Sabbath longer than Dio. He was on more albums than Dio. He never got the credit he deserves, in my opinion. In 1987, the band, as we mentioned, went through kind of a changing point because the band kept having lineup changes and vocalist changes. They finally enlisted metal vocalist Tony Martin to re-record Gillan's tracks on Eternal Idol. So it was originally supposed to be Ray Gillan singing, but he didn't sing on that album. Instead, Tony Martin did. This was a very interesting period for the band because the only original lineup that came back was Tony Iommi, and I believe Geezer Butler was on that album, wasn't he?
I think so.
They released with Martin the Eternal Idol, Headless Cross, and Tyre between the years of 1987 to 1990. And then Dio rejoined Sabbath in 1990 to 1992 to release Dehumanizer, which, in my opinion, is the most underrated Dio album of Black Sabbath.
And TV Crimes was on Bill and Ted.
Yep. And their song Computer God is one of my favorite songs off that album.
That song is I got the like the reunion that had like The Devil Cried and Shadow of the Wind on concert DVD, and they play Computer God and stuff like that on that album, on that set list. So good, dude.
Now, this is when things get fucking weird and fun. Dio ended up leaving Sabbath again.
Yeah, after a couple of years absence.
He quit Sabbath after a show in 1992. And the band wasn't even ready to do shows without him because they were going to appear at Osbourne's retirement show, and Dio figured he was going to get replaced by Ozzy anyway, so he quit. They ended up replacing, and this was short-lived. I would have loved to hear him on an album, but it was short-lived. They replaced Dio with Judas Priest vocalist Rob Halford. He stepped in last minute for 2 shows. And Bill Ward rejoined the band momentarily for a Live Aid concert. Then Rob Halford left. Ozzy got back with Sabbath. They did sort of a short-lived reunion, broke up again.
The 1998 reunion, I remember that because I got that.
No, this was 92.
Oh no, yeah, but then they did another reunion in 98.
Yeah, they did it after. I was going to get into Martin rejoining and then the Sabbath second reunion. The first reunion, 92, is not that popular because it was very short-lived. They did, I think, like 1 or 2 shows, 1 hit, and then they left. In 92 to 97, Martin rejoined yet again with drummer Vinny Appice rejoining as well. No, he left. He rejoined Ronnie James Dio's solo band after Dio left. Sorry, all this lineup shit's weird. So Vinny and Dio left, reformed Dio, which, fun fact, Holy Diver was originally supposed to be a Black Sabbath tune. I read that somewhere. Dio actually stated that a few times. But after Vinny left and Ronnie left, keep in mind, Ronnie James Dio is a former vocalist of Rainbow. Black Sabbath decided, since they do this often, they recruited the former Rainbow drummer Bobby to play drums after Bill Ward left. And then they brought back Tony Martin. They ended up releasing Cross Purposes and Forbidden with Tony Martin, and then Martin left the band again. And that is when we got the 1997-1999 reunion of Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy rejoined Sabbath. They did a lot of reunion shows, reunion tours, but they didn't release an album right away. But Ozzy kept releasing solo albums, going on solo tours, but we didn't see much Black Sabbath.
Well, it's funny. Black Sabbath, the Black Sabbath 1998 reunion album. That was my first introduction to Black Sabbath.
That is very interesting. That is actually one of the best Black Sabbath live albums too.
And it was well written. Not well written. It was well recorded. Everybody sounded fucking great. Ozzy sounded amazing. The sound production in that album.
Now, here is when Dio...
And the 3 unreleased songs on that album too.
Yes, great music. Now, Ozzy, as I stated, from 1997 till 2006, he reunited with Sabbath. What happened after 2006, you guys ask? Black Sabbath decided, due to Ozzy being too busy solo touring, they're going to reunite. And they asked Dio if he wanted to rejoin. And Dio said, only if we change the name.
That's good.
Which was
I
smart.
think that's fucking good.
Because Dio, in Dio's mind is you can't fucking replace me without going back to Sabbath.
Mm.
So he toured, and unfortunately, Heaven and Hell was great. They did amazing. They released only one album under that name.
One album, but then they were playing
Black
songs
Sabbath.
from fucking Mob Rules, Dehumanizer, and Heaven and Hell album. But it was still a great album. Very dark and heavy.
Unfortunately, though, Dio succumbed to stomach cancer. He was touring with it, by the way, but he succumbed to stomach cancer, and he ended up passing away, which kicked open the door for Black Sabbath coming back. Now, when Dio died, I was really sad, of course, like most metal fans were. He was a big impact in music. His era in Sabbath was awesome. His Heaven and Hell stuff was great. I remember in 2009, I saw a newspaper article, or 2008 or whatever, I was in high school. It said Black Sabbath changed his name to Heaven and Hell, and I thought that was cool. I heard that album. But when I heard Dio died and people started talking about Black Sabbath reuniting, I kind of hoped that it would have been with like Tony Martin, or they would have kept Heaven and Hell, but with Tony Martin singing.
I think Tony Martin went very quiet after all that.
He has solo albums.
Oh yeah, but then he just wanted to, I guess, just stay, unknown for a bit.
Yeah. His solo albums are spectacular. He just released one called Thorn, which is really good.
He's bald now, correct? I'm pretty sure he doesn't have any hair.
He shaved his head. I believe he has like some kind of a logo on the side of his head. I'd love to interview him on here. I would love it.
Don't worry, Zach and Shirley Benson that does the Loosen Riffs are trying to get him on there as well.
Let's see who gets him first.
Probably them.
Probably them. But
Yeah.
when Ronnie James Dio died in 2010, the legal battle, and there was a legal battle between Ozzy Osbourne and Tony Iommi over the trademark of Black Sabbath, which makes no sense. Why did Ozzy start it then? Well, they've been continuing on for fucking 30 years without you, bro. On and off. But anyway, they ended up settling. Ozzy got back with Sabbath in 2010. It was at this time Iommi, Butler, and Ward. However, they were supposed to do a new album, but Ward ended up leaving. Iommi ended up getting diagnosed with lymphoma, and the band kind of canceled all their shows.
The story behind Bill Ward leaving, though, it was because of money issues with Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah, that's popular amongst different things.
Because they did like this big announcement, this big reunion, a big photo shoot. Then after that, Bill was like, "Fuck you, I'm leaving. I'm not agreeing to this."
He said he would not reunite with the band unless he had a signable contract.
Yeah.
And then guitarist Tony Iommi had lymphoma, which he luckily got over, but they couldn't play the only two reunion shows they had booked. Tony Iommi got better. By 2012, they ended up playing reunion shows, but this time with Tommy Clefitis on drums, who is also notable for being in Ozzy's solo band.
Yeah.
Then the band released their 13 album in 2013 with Brad Wilk on drums from Rage Against the Machine. Interesting choice because Tommy Clefitis was the drummer live.
But I think they wanted to get somebody else or something. And that's the reason why they chose Brad Wilk. And they were saying that Brad Wilk was like an easy drummer to work with.
So Tommy wasn't technically a member of Sabbath. He was just a touring member of Sabbath.
Yeah. That's why you don't see him in meet and greet photos and shit.
Uh-huh.
Because he's just there to pay respect for Bill Ward's legacy, really.
No.
And I was lucky enough to see Sabbath live.
I wish I could have seen him.
I've seen him for the reunion and the first, like the comeback reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw them in the farewell tour.
So, according to what I'm reading right now, after their The End tour or whatever, they did release a EP called The End, which had unreleased tracks from 13 and live shit, whatever. Noami was interviewed about releasing Tony Martin era catalog on March 2016, and he stated, "We've held back on reissuing those albums because of the current Sabbath thing with Ozzy Osbourne, but they will certainly be happening. I'd like to do a couple new tracks for those releases with Tony Martin. I'll also be looking at working on Cross Purposes and Forbidden."
Yeah.
He also wanted to do something in 2017 for the Eternal Idol, but it didn't end up happening. Black Sabbath ended up breaking up. However, they do one-off reunion shows occasionally, like the 2022 Commonwealth Games.
Oh, but it wasn't really. It was just Tony Iommi and Ozzy, though.
They considered it Sabbath for some reason. I don't know why.
But they're idiots. But the End DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the set list?
No, I have not.
Very similar to when I went and saw them. They played Rat Salad.
That's a good
which
song.
is very rare that they fucking play that song. Fuck, what else did they play? Under the Sun they played at the reunion because I got the live in Melbourne DVD that they brought out, and that's a great fucking concert, dude.
I'm sad about Ozzy's current health, but I'm glad he at least got to do a farewell tour with Sabbath and solo.
Well, I remember when I went and saw them for the farewell, they opened up with Black Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
Normally Black Sabbath will be like in the mid-set, but to open up the farewell gig with the song Black Sabbath and then War Pigs, fucking amazing, dude. Fucking amazing. I kind of wish they played Supernaut completely, but they only did the instrumental.
I take this back. They didn't have unreleased music on the album, on the End live album. They had the Angelic Sessions, which was them just performing songs in like a studio.
Oh yeah. Have you seen footage of that?
Yes, it sounds amazing.
And they did like Wicked World and that. Like, that's such a great song. I love that song.
So, since we went through some of the history of Sabbath, are you ready to rank these albums?
Yeah, you can go first.
Do you want me to just go through my complete ranking from worst to best?
Oh, let's go to best to worst.
No, I'm going to go worst to best so people can get the anticipation up for.
Well, I'm going to go best to worst because it's going backwards would be kind of difficult.
Okay, I'll do best to worst. All right, Paranoid from 1970 would be my favorite Black Sabbath album. What would yours be?
You go completely.
Okay. Good morning, Jackie. All right, Paranoid, 1970, number 1. Number 2, Master of Reality, 1971. 3, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath from 1973. 4, Black Sabbath from 1970. 5, Volume 4 from 1972. 6, Headless Cross from 1989. 7, Sabotage, 1975. 8, 13 from 2013. 9, Heaven and Hell from 1980. The Eternal Idol was number 10 from 1987. 11 is Mob Rules from 1981. 12 is Tire from 1990. 13, Dehumanizer, 1992. 14, Cross Purposes from 1994. 15, Seventh Star from 1986. 16, Born Again from 1983. 17, Technical Ecstasy from 1976. 18, Never Say Die from 1978. And 19, that Ice-T Atrocity Forbidden. Nothing against Ice-T. I love Ice-T's music. Forbidden was not a horrible album, but it wasn't the best Black Sabbath album.
I like drinking iced-tea.
If you listen to Forbidden and you go in with an open mind and open heart, it's not that bad of an album. But it's not a Black Sabbath album.
Yeah.
Hi, Jackie. Thank you for joining us, dear. How would you rank the albums? Are we any similar?
Okay. Let me just pull it up on my phone. So I'll go Black Sabbath number 1,
Fair.
Massive Reality number 2. Then I'll probably go Paranoid at number 3, Volume 4 number 4. Go Heaven and Hell number 5, Sabotage number 6, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath number 7. And then I'll probably go Mob Rules, Heaven and Hell, 13, Dehumanizer. Probably Internal Idol after those. Headless Cross Tier, Cross Purposes Forbidden. Did I put 13 up there?
Yeah, you did. You already said 13.
Yeah, I did. Then my least favorite will probably be Born Again.
Did you do Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die?
Yeah. Sorry. Technical Ecstasy would be next to fucking Born Again, and probably Never Say Die will probably be like maybe after Mob Rules.
Okay.
But Black Sabbath and Master Reality, those 2 albums are just amazing.
I agree. And it's really hard for me to rank all the Black Sabbath albums that are Aussie era. Because I think
Like if we did an Aussie era Black Sabbath ranking, I would have done Black Sabbath, Master Reality, Volume 4, Paranoid, 13, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, and Technical and Never Say Die, and then Technical Ecstasy. Ecstasy?
Ecstasy.
Yeah.
So, Gorak, favorite Black Sabbath vocalist? Would it be Ozzy Osbourne, Ronnie James Dio, Tony Martin, Ray Gillen? I'm trying to get them all. Glenn Hughes.
I would go Ozzy Dio, Tony Martin, Ian Gillan, and the last person.
I wasn't even saying rank them. I was just asking who your favorite. And
I didn't care. I just ranked them because
I don't
Ozzy and like Ozzy is always going to be the top favorite. But then, like you have Dio, it's like next level shit.
I'm not saying favorite frontman, Greg. Favorite vocalist. I'm gonna rank them separate.
Oh, I'll go with Ozzy for sure.
My favorite vocalist of Black Sabbath is Tony Martin. It is tied with Dio, but I feel Tony Martin had more of a different registry. Like he could hit everything.
Yeah.
Ozzy's my favorite frontman, though. Nobody can work a crowd like Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. But then Dio, there was something about Dio's voice.
Yeah, he had the grit and the power. Now, a fun side note is I was going to rank Ray Gillen pretty high up there, but he wasn't on any album, so I really can't. But if you go back and listen to him sing any era of Sabbath stuff, he could sing any of it.
Yeah.
And for those of you wondering who Ray Gillen is, he was the singer of, what was it, Racer X, I think it was?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
I do believe that's who he sung for. He was the singer of Badlands. That's who he was the singer of.
Yeah, Eric Singer's band as well. He was in that band.
He was the singer of Badlands, which great fucking singer. Now, if you had to choose though, and I already know your answer. If we could go back in time, all the singers are alive. If you had to pick one lineup to see live, since you've already seen Ozzy's Black Sabbath, if you had to pick one lineup that you could see live, would it be Tony Martin, Dio. Which one?
Dio.
See, I would love to see Tony
But
Martin's Black Sabbath, but I want to see Heaven and Hell. So I got a loophole.
yeah, but with Vinny Appice on drums though.
You prefer him over Bill Ward?
Bill Ward's good, but like, Bill Ward's more of a jazz drummer. Vinny Appice is more of a hard hitting, hard rock metal drummer.
True, because Bill Ward's more of your classic, like jazz blues type drummer, where Vinny's like a fucking monster.
Yeah, and like his brother Carmine as well. Like they're both fucking great. Like
Didn't
hard
Vinny
rock metal.
and Carmine both play for Ozzy's solo band at one time?
Yeah,
And also, if I'm not mistaken, the
I think so.
keyboard
I could be wrong.
the keyboardist of Ozzy Osbourne's solo band, the original keyboardist, well, not the original, but one of the keyboardists of Ozzy's solo band is the father of Ozzy's last keyboardist.
Really?
Adam Wakeman, I think is his name.
Yeah. He was at the farewell tour. He was actually pretty good. He was at the sound check as well.
Yeah, Adam Wakeman is actually the son of Rick Wakeman, and both of them have played for Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath.
That's pretty cool though.
Rick Wakeman is actually famous for being the keyboardist and one of the founding members of progressive rock band Yes.
That's a cool name. Yes.
Let's start our own band, No, and tour.
Yeah. You know, or a tribute band to Wham, but called Whams.
Whams.
Yeah.
Yam.
Yeah.
Like a picture of a yam. Now, Gorak, we was supposed to have a guest tomorrow. They did cancel, which is fine. We will reschedule, and we will have you guys posted when it's going to happen. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about Scream 6. We're going to be reviewing.
I was going to call it movie of the year, but after seeing John Wick 4, dude, John Wick 4, hands down the best action movie that's been released this year.
You say that, bro.
No, I'm not joking, man. Dude, like, because Keanu Reeves does his own stunts in that movie.
Bro.
And then the fight, just the whole fight scenes, dude. The way how it was done, filmed, fucking amazing.
Now, Scream 6 is horror movie of the year, I would say, so far from what I've seen.
Yeah, but we can get it. Oh, I can't wait because, okay, the first 45 minutes of the film was good. Then after that, it kind of lagged off. But I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, until we get into it Wednesday. We're going to be live at noon, guys. Don't miss it. Also, movie of last year, the best horror movie of last year, what would you say before we go?
Black Phone.
Evil Bong 888 Infinity High. They ended the series on a high note. Just kidding.
Ethan Hawke would demolish that bomb.
Black Phone was a great fucking movie. Now, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share. We appreciate everyone watching this episode of Pink Sock Reacts. Next week, though, what movie are we reviewing? Because I have an idea.
Cocaine Bear, aren't we? Because you've seen it.
Yes, we can review Cocaine Bear, but I have a movie idea before we jump back into Rob Zombie.
What's that?
Hold on, I'm trying to remember the name of the fucking movie that I just watched. My brain is not fucking with it. This is a movie that you need to see, bro.
Yeah.
Let me get it here. I'm kind of like, I'm getting over an illness, so I'm just blaming that. What the fuck, phone? Jexi. Jexi. It is actually starring, what's his name, from Adam Devine from Workaholics. He gets this new phone, and it basically has a mind of its own.
Right.
And it basically is running his life. That's fucking a good movie. It is on Netflix in the USA. I don't know
Oh.
where it's at,
I can have a look.
where you're at, but you have
Yeah,
Q.
it's on Netflix here.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
But I will see you guys later. What are we doing next week on Pink Sock Podcast? What do you want to do?
I don't know. Just leave it as a surprise.
All right, let's rank all 300 and whatever Buckethead albums. I'm just kidding.
You're killing me, bro. Well, Mike bailed, but anyway, guys, that was Pink Sock. This was
I don't know what
the
happened.
Black Sabbath ranking. Oh, look, he's back.
My camera.
Yeah,
fell
I was
shut.
about to wrap things up, saying that you bailed, and Ronnie James Dio was a better vocalist. But
Ronnie James Dio is a great vocalist. Don't get me wrong. I would say him and Tony Martin are top.
but who sings about dragons and dungeons and breathing fire? Ronnie James Dio.
But he made it cool, and he was 4 foot nothing. He was a cool dude.
He could have been a Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings character. Dio could have been one of the little elves from like Harry Potter.
That, or he could be like he could have been like in Star Wars.
He could have been. But he didn't sing about dragons and shit while he was in Sabbath.
No, but like if you listen to like Neon Nights and stuff like that.
True.
But like it just sounds like a a dude, a knight trying to save his girl or some shit. I don't know. But anyway. Watch Johnny 4.
I will. But
I'll watch all 3 of them first.
I'll see you guys Wednesday. And as always, live long, rock hard. If you don't agree with our list, leave your list below. Let us know what your favorite Black Sabbath album was and who your favorite vocalist was or guitarist.
And don't say Blizzard of Oz.
I was going to say guitarist, but Tony Iommi's the only one. Your favorite lineup. Love y'all. And as always, live long, rock hard.
Bye-bye.